Hmm. Automotive vertical axis fixed in an inertial frame. The resultant force on a particle of the body. No. ऐसे वो वर्टिकल में तो ये हॉरिजॉन्टल मिलेगा तो ना स्क्यू 11th का कभी हॉरिजॉन्टल एंड स्क्यू टू द एक्सिस बहुत ही बढ़िया. One end of a uniform rod of mass m and length l is clamped. Take one end of a uniform rod one end of a uniform rod of mass m length l is clamped. The rod is lie on a smooth horizontal surface and rotate it about the clamp end with a uniform angular velocity omega. Uniform angular velocity ओमेगा से रोटेट हो रहा है. ठीक. The force exerted by clock on the horizontal the force exerted by the clock on rod has a horizontal component ओमेगा स्क्वायर एल. रॉड का क्या है? रॉड का हमारा है ये. ठीक. ये ऐसे ऐसे घूम रहा है. ठीक. तो इसमें फोर्स वर्टिकली हॉरिजॉन्टली लगेगा तो कुछ नहीं होगा. वर्टिकली लगेगा. वर्टिकली इस पे फोर्स कितना लगेगा? हॉरिजॉन्टल कंपोनेंट में 0 लगेगा. कुछ भी नहीं लगेगा. A rod of length L is hinged from one rod. It is brought a horizontal position and released. The velocity of the rod when it is vertical position is a rod of length L is hinged from one end. It is brought to a horizontal position.
गाइस ये क्वेश्चन है, वन एंड ऑफ a uniform rod of mass m and length l is clamped. The rod lies on a smooth horizontal surface and it rotates on the clamped end with an angular velocity omega. ठीक है, अब the force exerted on the clamp has a horizontal component of, तो ये हमारा क्वेश्चन है। इसमें एक रॉड है जो मैंने बनाया नीचे, उसका मास m और लेंथ l है, वो हॉरिजेंटली टेबल पे है और क्लैम्प्ड है, वो एंगुलर वेलोसिटी ओमेगा से रोटेट कर रहे हैं। अब हमें हॉरिजॉन्टल क्लैम्प जो फोर्स इस रॉड पे एक्सर्ट कर रहे हैं उसका हॉरिजॉन्टल कंपोनेंट पूछ रहे हैं। वर्टिकल कंपोनेंट क्या होता है? वेट ऑफ द रॉड होता है, क्योंकि रॉड के नीचे की तरफ जो वेट रहती है उस वेट को ये वर्टिकली बैलेंस कर देती है। हॉरिजॉन्टल कंपोनेंट पूछ रहे हैं, उसके लिए देखो इस रॉड के ऊपर अगर उसका लेंथ एल है, उसके ऊपर इसका हॉरिजॉन्टल कंपोनेंट ऑफ फोर्स क्या होते हैं? टोटल इस रॉड का एक एक पार्ट, एक एक पार्ट जो हिस्सा होता है इस रॉड का, वो सर्कल में रोटेट कर रहे हैं, ठीक है, उसका सभी पार्ट्स का एंगुलर वेलोसिटी ओमेगा ही है, तो उन सब का सेंट्रीफ्यूगल फोर्स जो होता है वो ये क्लैम्प ही दे रहा है। तो एक एक पार्ट का सेंट्रीफ्यूगल फोर्स जुड़ के इस पार्ट का, इस क्लैम्प का जो फोर्स एक्सर्ट कर रहा है उसका हॉरिजॉन्टल कंपोनेंट निकाल सकते हैं। तो वो सेंट्रीफ्यूगल फोर्स कैसे कैलकुलेट कर सकते हैं? अगर एक बॉडी है, आर डिस्टेंस, वो रोटेट हो रहा है अबाउट ए पॉइंट ओ, समझो एक बॉडी है, उसका मास अगर एम हो, वो अबाउट ओ रोटेट कर रहा है विद एन एंगुलर वेलोसिटी ओमेगा, तो उसके ऊपर जो सेंट्रीफ्यूगल फोर्स होता है वो होता है, अगर वो रोड आर डिस्टेंस पे है तो उसके ऊपर जो सेंट्रीफ्यूगल फोर्स रहता है वो एम आर ओमेगा स्क्वायर है, उसका मास और उसका डिस्टेंस फ्रॉम द पॉइंट ऑफ रोटेशन और ओमेगा स्क्वायर, वो है उसके ऊपर का सेंट्रीफ्यूगल फोर्स। लेकिन इस रॉड एक ही डिस्टेंस पे नहीं है, इस क्लैम्प से पूरे एल डिस्टेंस पे डिस्ट्रीब्यूट की चुकी है। तो उसके लिए क्या करेंगे? उसके लिए हम इस रॉड का एक छोटी सी हिस्सा लेंगे जो सेंटर से आर डिस्टेंस पे है, ठीक है, तो उसके ऊपर जो सेंट्रीफ्यूगल फोर्स होते हैं वो लेके हम पूरा कैलकुलेट करेंगे। समझते हैं उसके ऊपर जो सेंट्रीफ्यूगल फोर्स होते हैं उसको डी एफ लेंगे, वो कितना होगा एट डिस्टेंस आर, और इसका थिकनेस लेंगे डी आर। तो मास पर यूनिट लेंथ इस रॉड का क्या है? एम बाई एल, ठीक है, तो ये एम डी आर लेंथ का मास कितना होता है अगर उसको डी एम लें और वो डिस्टेंस आर पे है और ओमेगा ओमेगा स्क्वायर है, हर पार्ट का ओमेगा 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 ही होता है, तो ये डी एफ कितना होता है? डी एम कितना है? मास डेंसिटी एम बाई एल इंटू डी आर है कि नहीं, एम बाई एल इंटू डी आर इंटू ओमेगा स्क्वायर। तो हम यहाँ से टोटल फोर्स निकालेंगे इंटीग्रेट करके, एम बाई एल डी आर इंटू ओमेगा स्क्वायर। आर रन्स फ्रॉम जीरो टू टोटल लेंथ ऑफ रॉड एल, एफ रन्स फ्रॉम जीरो टू टोटल फोर्स ऑन द रॉड एफ, तो यहाँ से एफ बनेगा एम बाई एल ओमेगा स्क्वायर, और आर डी आर का इंटीग्रल आर स्क्वायर बाई टू है, तो आर स्क्वायर बाई टू रनिंग फ्रॉम जीरो टू एल, तो ये बनेगा एम बाई एल ओमेगा स्क्वायर इंटू एल स्क्वायर बाई टू, जो है फाइनली एफ एम एल ओमेगा स्क्वायर बाई टू। ये है टोटल हॉरिजॉन्टल फोर्स अप्लाइड बाय द रॉड, अप्लाइड बाय द क्लैम्प ऑन द रोड, एम एल ओमेगा स्क्वायर बाई टू। मतलब ये हमारा डी ऑप्शन सही है।
ठीक है ठीक है, ओके ओके। दिया क्या बताया? रेड रॉड ऑफ लेंथ ऐसे वो हिंज है, ठीक। अब क्या है वो, क्या हम हॉरिजॉन्टल कंपोनेंट क्या बोले? टी आर ले लो आर डिस्टेंस पे।
गाइस देखिए इस क्वेश्चन है, एक यूनिफॉर्म रॉड है, इज केप्ट वर्टिकली ऑन ए हॉरिजॉन्टल
इसका मास m है, l है, ठीक। ये हिंज है, ठीक। तो ये एक r डिस्टेंस की दूरी पे dr लिया गया है, जिसका मास f क्या होता है, फिजिकल टू m ओमेगा स्क्वायर r होता है, ठीक। तो df इज इक्वल टू dm ओमेगा स्क्वायर, ये l हो जाएगा ना, यार हो जाएगा। अब ये देखो, इसको इंटीग्रेट करेंगे हम, m/l ml ओमेगा स्क्वायर r स्क्वायर बाई 2 l0 ऐसे भी क्वेश्चन होते हैं, इसमें तो कारण नहीं आता था, ठीक। A rod of length L is hanged from one and a rod of length क्या है, L है, is hanged from one hand. It brought to a horizontal position. Horizontal position पे brought हुआ और रिलीज हो गया। एक एंड से ये हिंज है, ठीक। ठीक, अगर ये इसे रिलीज कर दिया गया इस एंगल when it is in vertical position में इसकी एंगुलर वेलोसिटी क्या हो जाएगी, इनिशियली फाइनली ये था, ठीक। मुझे लग रहा है आर लग रहा है, आई नेट x is equals to IA alpha एंगुलर मोमेंटम अल्फा, ठीक। mg l/2 sin 90 3G/12.
Hello students, I have a question given. A rod of length L is hinged from one end. It is brought to a horizontal position and released. The angular velocity of the rod when it is in vertical position is. ठीक है, तो एक रॉड है जिसे हॉरिजॉन्टल पोजीशन में लाके छोड़ दिया जाता है. ठीक है, द एंगुलर वेलोसिटी, अब हम उसे उसकी एंगुलर वेलोसिटी बतानी जब वो वर्टिकल पोजीशन में आ जाए. ठीक है, तो अब देखिए यहाँ पे इस डायग्राम में देख सकते हैं हम लोग. सबसे पहले वो इस पोजीशन में था. ठीक है, यहाँ पे था, उससे फिर रिलीज कर दिया गया. अब वो इस वर्टिकल पोजीशन में पहुंच चुका है. सही है, और देखिए हमें पता है जो सेंटर ऑफ मास था रॉड का वो था L/2 पे. सही है, तो देखिए इसके इफेक्ट हम लोग अब देखिए सॉल्व करते हैं. तो क्योंकि यहाँ पे कोई डिस्पर्सिव फोर्स नहीं है, यानी कि एनर्जी कंजर्व रहेगा, तो हम लोग यहाँ पे लगा सकते हैं एनर्जी कंजर्वेशन से. यहाँ पे लॉस ऑफ पोटेंशियल एनर्जी जो भी होगा वो कहाँ गेन होगा, काइनेटिक एनर्जी में, क्योंकि यहाँ पे कोई डिस्पर्सिव फोर्स नहीं है तो एनर्जी पूरा कंजर्व है. ठीक है, जो पोटेंशियल एनर्जी में लॉस हो रहा है वो कहीं और गेन हो रहा होगा. ठीक है, तो देखिए यहाँ पे लॉस ऑफ पोटेंशियल कितना है, वो कितना हाइट नीचे आया है, सेंटर ऑफ मास mg/L/2 से आया नीचे. और गेन ऑफ काइनेटिक एनर्जी, उस पर काइनेटिक एनर्जी क्या होगा, हाफ आई ओमेगा स्क्वायर. और हमें यहाँ पे क्वेश्चन में क्या पूछा है, एंगुलर वेलोसिटी. ठीक है, तो ओमेगा हमारा एंगुलर वेलोसिटी. तो देखिए यहाँ से वैल्यू आएगी mg/L/2 वैसे ही लिख देंगे. ठीक है, और हाफ इंटू इसकी मोमेंट डिफरेंशियल कितनी होगी, mL/3 ओमेगा स्क्वायर. सही है, अब देखिए यहाँ से हम कैंसिल करेंगे, मास दोनों तरफ कैंसिल हो जाएगा, एल यहाँ पे कैंसिल हो जाएगा, यहाँ पे सिर्फ एल बचेगा, और यहाँ पे 2 कैंसिल हो जाएगा. तो यहाँ से हमारी वैल्यू आएगी g ओमेगा स्क्वायर L/3. ओमेगा को इधर रख के बाकी उधर भेजेंगे तो क्या होगा हमारे पास, ओमेगा √3g/L, जो कि ऑप्शन नंबर 2.
मैसेज चंपा रहता है. Simple motion. देखो अब तुम्हारा SHM स्टार्ट करो। SHM सिंपल equation of SHM velocity, energy, acceleration.
Let us start with a new section of oscillations and simple harmonic motion, which is abbreviated as SHM. SHM is a specific kind of oscillations, and it is quite an important section in high school physics. So let's approach to the whole theoretical and mathematical analysis of SHM step by step. The very first thing we will study before studying simple harmonic motion is periodic motion. I hope all of you are aware about periodic motion of a particle, what exactly it means. This you already studied in your early classes also. We can simply state when a motion is repeated continuously after a specific time is termed as periodic motion. And if we are talking about a specific time after which it is being repeated, the specific time after which the motion is being repeated is called time period of motion. This is denoted by the letter capital T. And in periodic motion, another important analysis which is being done for a particle's motion is in terms of frequency. If we define frequency of periodic motion, for all kind of periodic motion, frequency is basically number of cycles or complete motion per unit time. In a unit duration, the number of cycles the particle perform or number of motion the particle is repeating is called or is termed as frequency of periodic motion. It is denoted by the Greek symbol nu, which is given as a reciprocal of period of motion, and its units is taken as hertz. Hertz is basically for number of cycles per second. 1 cycle per second is termed as 1 hertz. So you can just also write down 1 hertz is equals to 1 cycle per is termed as periodic motion. And if we are talking about a specific time after which it is being repeated, the specific time after which the motion is being repeated is called time period of motion. This is denoted by the letter capital T. And in periodic motion, another important analysis which is being done for a particle's motion is in terms of frequency. If we define frequency of periodic motion, for all kind of periodic motion, frequency is basically number of cycles or complete motion per unit time. In a unit duration, the number of cycles the particle perform or number of motion the particle is repeating is called or is termed as frequency of periodic motion. It is denoted by the Greek symbol nu, which is given as a reciprocal of period of motion, and its units is taken as hertz. Hertz is basically for number of cycles per second. 1 cycle per second is termed as 1 hertz. So you can just also write down 1 hertz is equals to 1 cycle per second. So number of cycles the particle is repeating per unit time is defined as the frequency of periodic motion. After periodic motion, if we study about oscillations, we can simply state it is a periodic motion in which a particle moves to and fro about a fixed point. This fixed point is termed as it is called mean position of oscillation. Basically, if say this is the mean position of oscillation, and a particle is moving to and fro about the mean position on the two sides of it, and these two ends up to which the particle is moving are called extreme positions. This is also extreme position. And when particle is oscillating about this mean position, then the maximum displacement to which the particle is going, that is the separation between mean position and extreme position, the separation is called amplitude of oscillation. And this is denoted by letter A. I hope you have studied in your middle school level about the amplitude of oscillation and how a particle oscillates about mean position, because when particle moves about mean position and it is oscillating, that means this mean position is generally a point of a stable equilibrium. In the section of work energy power also we have studied about the variation of potential energy with position of a particle, and we have studied about a potential well in which the position of a stable equilibrium are those where if a particle is displaced from the equilibrium position, it has a tendency to move back towards the position of a stable equilibrium because of restoring forces. Let's discuss something about the energy variation of a particle in oscillation. Now, in continuation, we'll study about kinetic and potential energy variation in oscillation. If you just recall your memory, we have studied about a potential energy versus a position curve. For a particle which is in a stable equilibrium, the curve looks like this. And we know the position xm, where potential energy is minimum, we define it the position of stable equilibrium. And in this curve, which is approximately a U-shaped curve, not necessarily a parabola, it could have a different equation also. This is the point where potential energy is minimum. We already studied that if the particle is displaced in either direction from this stable equilibrium position, the particle's potential energy will increase. And we can say as potential energy is increased, it will experience a restoring force which has a tendency to bring the particle back to the position of a stable equilibrium. So obviously if you displace the particle from mean position, due to restoring force it will come back, and when it will reach mean position, due to acceleration of the force it will gain some kinetic energy and overshoot the mean position, and then the direction of force will reverse. So this restoring force and this potential well curve of potential energy is responsible for oscillation of particle about the mean position. So in this situation, if we talk about the kinetic energy of particle, here we can state if the particle is oscillating about its mean position, so we can state mean position is the point where we can say the speed of particle is maximum, or this is the point where we can say its kinetic energy is maximum. And as per the analysis we have seen, at mean position its potential energy will be minimum because this is the point of stable equilibrium. And when we talk about the oscillation of particle, say particle is oscillating on the two sides of mean position with amplitude A. And at this position and at this position, the potential energy of particle during oscillation will be maximum. And here we can say at extreme position, particle is returning. So at this point, the speed of particle will be 0, and we can say its kinetic energy will be minimum, and here potential energy will be maximum. So at extreme position, we can say kinetic energy is minimum and potential energy will be maximum. So on both the extreme, we can say the kinetic energy of particle will be 0 or it is minimum, and potential energy can be taken as maximum. So always keep this kinetic and potential energy variation analysis for a particle in oscillation. This is quite useful in understanding the concept of simple harmonic motion, which is a specific type of oscillations. Now we'll discuss about the types of oscillations. We can state that all oscillations are classified in three broad categories. These are the first one as free oscillations, second one as damped oscillations, the third one as forced oscillations. I'll just brief you about all the three kinds. Like free oscillations are those which once started will carry on up to indefinite time. Like if we take a simple pendulum in vacuum, and if it is slightly tilted and released, it will start oscillating. This all of you know. And as in vacuum there is no air friction, and if we consider ideal conditions, it will oscillate indefinitely. So this is a kind of free oscillation in which there is no effect of friction or damping is there, no energy loss takes place. In free oscillation, only kinetic and potential energy convert into each other during oscillations. If we talk about damped oscillations are those in which damping exists due to some friction or opposition. Like if we just talk about the case of a simple pendulum which is oscillating in air. If it is oscillating in air, we can state due to air friction gradually the energy will be lost by the pendulum and its amplitude will decrease. So we can state in this situation, if the pendulum is oscillating in air, gradually its amplitude will decrease and finally after some time it will come to rest. Such oscillations in which energy losses take place because of friction or some other kind of opposition which are non-conservative. So energy is extracted and amplitude will gradually damp out and finally the oscillations will fade out. Such oscillations are called damped oscillations. We talk about forced oscillation, we can say damping is compensated by external forces. In case of in presence of external non-conservative forces, damping take place, and if some external forces are supplying energy at the same rate at which the damped oscillation is losing energy, in that case we can say by applying an external force, continuously energy is being supplied which is being lost by the particle. So no damping take place if external force is present which is supplying energy at the same rate at which the damping is extracting energy from the oscillation. So forced oscillation are those in which oscillations will carry on up to indefinite time or up to the time till the external forces are supplying energy. It is a situation we can understand that if there is a simple pendulum in air and it is oscillating, and after each oscillation some energy is lost, and you can say some external agent is applying a force at the same frequency on the two sides such that its amplitude is kept constant. At every quarter of oscillation or after every half of oscillation, continuously if external forces supplying energy, we can state the oscillations will be maintained. Or more precisely we can state if force is applied at the end, it will not be exactly compensated because when the particle starts from one side, it will not exactly reach the other end. It will stop before reaching the other end. So it is advisable that we should supply energy at the mean position when its kinetic energy is maximum, so that it will be able to gain that much amount of energy which is equal to the loss from one extreme to other extreme. Now we'll discuss about simple harmonic motion. About SHM we can state it is a special type of oscillation in which during oscillation the acceleration of particle is directly proportional to the displacement of particle. Now we'll discuss about simple harmonic motion. About SHM we can state it is a special type of oscillation in which during oscillation the acceleration of particle is directly proportional to the displacement of particle from its mean position. As we know well that during oscillation always acceleration is acting towards the mean position, and if it is directly proportional to the displacement of particle from mean position, that this particular oscillation which follows the rule can be regarded as simple harmonic motion. Say if a particle is oscillating about a given mean position with an amplitude, say mean position is x equals to 0 and extreme positions are at x equals to plus a and x equals to minus a being the amplitude of oscillation. In this situation, when say the particle is at a distance x from mean position and it is experiencing a restoring acceleration a, which is acting towards the mean position, and if a is directly proportional to x, negative sign is just indicating that a is acting opposite to the displacement. Then this is the situation we can state that the particle is executing simple harmonic motion. There are some other conditions also which will favor. Let's also visualize the other conditions which will favor an oscillation to be SHM. Some other condition we can also discuss. Conditions which will favor an oscillation to be SHM. Some other condition we can also discuss. For favor of an oscillation to be SHM, the most prime condition about it is oscillation amplitude to plus a and x equals to minus a being the amplitude of oscillation. In this situation, when say the particle is at a distance, is just indicating that a is acting opposite to the displacement. Then this is the situation we can state that the particle is executing simple harmonic motion. There are some other conditions also which will favor. Let's also visualize the other conditions which will favor an oscillation to be SHM. Some other condition we can also discuss. For favor of an oscillation to be SHM, the most prime condition about it is oscillation amplitude to be very small. In most of cases, if oscillation amplitude is very small, even if the previous rule is not being followed directly, it can be imposed. Let's have an analysis for this. Like if a particle is executing oscillation in such a way that at a displacement x, its acceleration is given as this c1x plus c2x square directed towards the mean position. Obviously, as in this situation, acceleration is not directly proportional to x. There is a term of x square is also there in acceleration, so we cannot directly call it SHM. But if a is very small, where a being the amplitude, like mean position is at x equal to 0 and extreme positions are at x equals to plus a and x equals to minus a. In this situation, if a is very small, we can state that displacement of particle, which is always less than or equal to its amplitude, will also be very small. And if x is very small, the higher order terms for x can be ignored. And here we can approximate it as a is equals to minus c1x, which can be taken as the basic condition for an oscillation to be SHM. So this oscillation in which acceleration depends on x as well as x square can also be taken as SHM if amplitude of oscillation is very small. Similarly, there are many other cases in which we can analyze, like if a is given as not a polynomial function of x, it is given as say sine of c1x. Again here acceleration depends on a sinusoidal function of x, not as a direct relationship between acceleration and x axis. Then also we can state for a to be small, or we can use acceleration as approximately minus c1x, as we can write for a small theta, sine theta can be approximated as theta. So here also we can see this sinusoidal function transform into the function which we require for the particle's oscillation to be SHM. So we can state if amplitude is very small, in many cases even if oscillation is not directly given as a proportional function of x, it can be transformed and can be regarded approximately as SHM. Another condition which is sometimes useful is oscillation of particle should be in a straight line. This is not a very useful and very important condition, but sometimes it happens that if even a particle is moving in a curve, then for a small displacements, if amplitude is very small, the particle's motion can be regarded as a straight line. So we can ignore the centripetal acceleration acting on the particle and it can be directly analyzed as SHM. Later we are going to discuss about some facts related to this condition. But this first condition is quite useful and important, which we are going to use very frequently.